I'll be curious to see how the latest Epstein files drama plays out. The so called shift in Trump is some kind of ploy, misdirection. The He's encouraging the vote. Well, there doesn't have to be a vote. You can release the files right now. Yesterday, last week, you can release those files. But the way they moved heaven and earth to keep that from coming out and going as far as to shut down the government, because that is what that was about. That was about delaying Alita Grohava's being sworn in. And so I'm just wondering, did they get everything redacted? Did they scrub them? Have they destroyed part of the files? I'm just wondering to see what is going to transpire now, because there is no way he wants those. We will not see the real information if they get released, which I am highly doubtful of. The fact that they had 1,000 FBI agents working 24-hour shifts to redact his name from those files tells you how embedded he is in that. Everything already released. I mean, come on. He's he's as guilty as it gets. It's as simple as that. But what I really wanted to talk about today, aside from that, is I'm curious to see what the face of the Republican Party is in the post Trump era. And the post Trump era is coming. We will have to deal with JD Vance, and I think he's pretty close to being just as awful as Trump. He's Peter Thiel's little sugar baby and also connected to Kevin Roberts. And I don't find him to be a person of integrity. But the Republican Party that seems to have devolved into just Christian nationalists that aren't very Christian like, and they are, I mean, part of that is MAGA. If you watch the documentary Bad Faith, it kind of gives you a heads up on the movement, the regressive movement, I would add. And so just to give a brief background on the kind of my stance where I'm at, just because you don't know my history, you don't know who I am, you don't know. I grew up in a Republican household. I was a Republican for many, many years, even though I didn't really know what that meant because, of course, I wasn't involved in politics. Um, I was busy living life like a lot of people and didn't pay much attention to it until a bill came up in my deep red state that was just so egregiously wrong. I ended up being at the Capitol a bit, talking to legislators there. And through this bill, I learned how corrupt my own legislature is. Listening to them talk on the floor about this bill, they were ignorant. They sounded like a bunch of hicks. And this was something that never should have even reached the floor. That's a story in itself, and I'll cover it in another video because it's actually the reason I started this channel. I really don't like to talk about politics. But the thing is, information needs the light of day. People don't know what's going on. There's some really crooked things going on in my state. And I also want to talk about things like the environment and law, how it pertains to animals, things that are going on, just, ethical, lack of ethical. lack of the ramifications of the lack of ethics, let's just say. So I just wanted to start the channel to kind of bring light to some things, just my point of view on some things that I think are wrong. And I think politicians are, I don't so many of them are so archaic, and the way that they think is just so outmoded. Things have changed and they don't seem to change with the times. So anyway, it made me look into my own philosophy on politics, and I realized the Republicans seemed to me to be a party of corporations. They seem to be just hand everything over to corporations and businesses to pillage everything for profit. They don't want to safeguard our water or air. And when Trump rolled back protections on those for the second time, I heard not one Republican say anything about any of that. Now, there are always exceptions, of course. One Republican I respect and like to listen to is Adam Kinzinger. And I think he used to be a congressman. He's ex-military. He's very smart. He's not hyperbolic, and I just I I think his thinking is progressive and intelligent. And so I haven't watched The Last Republican yet, but I'm hoping to get around to that soon. But anyway, I resigned from the Republican Party after that. By the way, they passed the bill against the will of the people in this state. That I'll have to do a video on that whole thing because it was a mess. But I resigned from the Republican Party. I did a little research on bills and how Republicans vote, and I just decided that this wasn't the right place for me. But I don't really feel like a Democrat. I did register as a Democrat just so I could vote in everything. But to be honest, I think the two-party system is divisive. I think they want it that way. I think they want those inherent biases in place. And to me, I think we should abolish the two-party system and fill the seats with ethical people, smart people, people who can move us forward, unlike this administration, and who actually love America and our way of life here. This seems like a very much I hate America administration to me, especially when they lie to the American people daily, all the things that have gone on. But anyway, the face of the Republican Party going forward, it will be interesting to see in the post Trump era what goes on. So the Republicans swore him in, even though he was disqualified under the 14th Amendment to be president. And they have subsequently just sat in silence and watched everything he's done. And I don't need to go through the laundry list of every egregious thing he has done. There's been a lot, and there's multiple impeachable offenses, and yet the Republicans have done nothing. When he pardoned the Gen Sixers, I didn't hear a single Republican come out against it or say anything, but at least the Democrats had a press conference and spoke about how disgusted and disappointed they were in it. Several of those people have gone on to commit crimes again. He is big on pardoning criminals, especially those who commit crimes that are very similar to his and or the crimes he commits. And there's this, I mean, that's a rabbit hole we could go down. We could talk about him wanting to attack Brazil because Brazil prosecuted their insurrectionist president. And he didn't like that. He likes to try to whitewash his own history by pardoning or striking out at people who are punishing those who do things that he does. But when the Republicans passed the big bloated billionaire welfare bill and took health care away from so many people and gave that tax cut to the 1%, the billionaires and millionaires, they danced on the Senate floor. They cheered, they clapped, they acted. Oh my goodness, he has drugged the Republicans down to acting like 12-year-olds. It's really astonishing and disgusting all at the same time. But they were dancing, singing, clapping, singing YMCA, no less. Now that I don't get, because that is, from what I understand, a gay anthem. And we all know one of the demographics they like to attack. And sometimes I think those guys death protest too much. But with with all I've seen, I just feel like they've lost their integrity, they've lost their honor. For them to say they are scared, because I keep hearing, "Oh, they're scared to stand up against Trump." They're scared. No, I don't think they are, after seeing them dance and sing on the Senate floor after what they did. Meanwhile, there's several Democrats who have been doing their job and also standing up to Trump under threats from MAGA, several of which who have had to hire security out of their own pocket. And so I don't buy the being scared bit. You either have integrity or you don't. You either do what's right or you don't. And wouldn't it have been nice if Mitch McConnell had had the ethics to do the right thing? And do I even need to mention Merrick Garland, who, had he done his job, bad choice, Biden, just saying. But anyway, I'm curious to see how the Republican Party is after this. It's going to be interesting. So, till the next one.